We got people building stars in the garbage, in the backyards. We got like people like renewable diesel. That's crazy. That's just like on a whole nother level. But what if I told you that the next billionaire could be a garbage man? You're not going to believe me, right? But I'm going to take you through charcoal being used as an alternative fertilizer to extracting oil from waste tires that can be used for the diesel marketplace in Africa. Now, speaking about Africa, all these developing nations that are seeking some sort of development have one essential use case: energy, which is why we're all here. Energy is a single determining factor for quality of life. Take, for example, my home country, South Africa. As of this moment, a blackout happens every 6 to 12 hours due to poor and aging infrastructure. Yes, 6 to 12 hours. And what happens is, and considering the fact that this is Africa's largest economy and coal accounts for 85% of its electricity generation, and it's the 13th biggest carbon emitter globally, it would be a great place to start in electrifying Africa's energy needs. And considering the fact that we would need that to be sustainable, I've got an idea. Seriously, I've got an idea. Let's just put solar panels everywhere. Yeah, man. Paul, let's just put solar panels everywhere. Plug in a few microgrids for rural areas, like buy some Tesla Powerwalls for the vast majority who can't afford it, and problem solved, right? Well, no, obviously not. If that was the case, it would have been done already. Don't get me wrong, solar is awesome, but it can't seem to be a significant solution for an Africa that is expected to double its energy demand by 2040, have a population on the continent of 2.5 billion, and home to one of the fastest growing economies in the world, Ethiopia, Ghana, Botswana. Come on. But what if I told you I had a free energy resource as well, 24/7? No batteries needed, no reliance on weather conditions, just free. Hell, I could even get paid for that resource. Garbage. Imagine I take Africa's 140 million tons of solid waste annually and turn it into a form of solid energy. All of these garbage streams like plastic waste, rubber, and organic materials all have molecular bonds. And if I can break down these bonds, I can generate different forms of energy, right? So let me tell you where it all got started. This is me and my co-founder, Munir. We started to get really interested about this technology when we started to see tons of waste tires in landfill depots around our home country in South Africa, like tons of them. And so we ended up traveling to a plant in Turkey in the mountains of Trabzon near tea farms, right? And they take tea shrubs or waste shrubs from these tea farms and they put them through a chemical process called pyrolysis that breaks them down and decomposes them to generate byproducts of electricity and charcoal, right? And that's exactly what pyrolysis is. It's the thermal decomposition of materials like biomass, rubber, plastics in a high temperature environment, typically between 500 and 1,000 degrees, without the absence of oxygen, and breaks them down into smaller molecules that eventually release gases and liquids that can be used as a fuel or chemical feedstock, right? So what happens is the resulting products of pyrolysis depend on the type of materials being used. For example, the pyrolysis of biomass can produce bio-oil, but it can also have a byproduct of biochar or biocharcoal. Now, biochar is this really interesting phenomenon, right? It's basically charcoal that becomes biochar when you bury it into the ground. And it can be used as a soil amendment. It increases crop yields by enhancing water retention. It reduces pH levels in the soil. This is a level playing field for fertilizers in Africa and can be used for food security in Africa. It's an alternative fertilizer. But if this is so good, why are we only hearing about this now? In the past year, some of you may know, some of you hearing about it actually now. So why are we only hearing about this now? And I realized that it actually was high cost that was due to the issue and immature technology. But due to the recognition of climate change in the past few years, it has economically given benefits and incentives for things like biochar, renewable electricity, renewable diesel, and has made pyrolysis an attractive commercial technology, allowing it to be scalable. And this is the case with many others in the space, like solar being one of them. I mean, the tech became mature enough, sort of, cheap enough, and it had the scientific backing, and it scaled. That's exactly what happened. But now that you guys got a better understanding of what pyrolysis is, back to the story. One thing led to another, and we found a major opportunity in Africa to make use of this hard tech. So, and South Africa particularly, due to urbanization, population growth, unsustainable consumption patterns, I mean, South Africa throws away at least $45 billion worth of recoverable resources each year. That means South Africa and Africa as a whole haven't realized the household and the potential of household waste and commercial waste as a source of raw materials. So we decided to focus on the waste tire issue. With over 250,000 tons of waste tires landing up in landfill depots around my home country in South Africa, with 900,000 deficit in landfills still just lying there, we realized that through the process of pyrolysis, we're able to produce byproducts like carbon black, electricity, and heavy fuel oil. Or another word for that is pyrolysis oil, which can be desulfurized and distilled further from 120 ppm sulfur content down to 10 ppm diesel content. So we can use it as a diesel fuel. Now, this is the juicy part. For every 2 tons of waste tires, I can produce 1 megawatt of electricity. To put that in perspective, we're in developing nations where electricity consumption is often lower. I can supply hundreds of households with electricity for several months, just off 2 tons of waste tires. And just remember, I just said 250,000 tons increase every year, right? So, and I just want to go from South Africa to Africa again. This is just the curb line through the waste management crisis that Africa is currently going through right now. It's impacting environmental health, and there's a major concern about this in the future. But the continent is set to undergo a major social and economic transformation in the coming decade. Technology like pyrolysis has an opportunity to make use of this transformation and recover resources that would otherwise be lost. It's a promising technology to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and manage waste and generate a clean form of energy for an insanely interesting Africa as of this current moment. I would like you guys to join me on my journey and welcome you to the $1 Billion Garbage Fund. Thank you.